Welcome to Small Business Saturday.
Welcome to Small Business Saturdays video series with your host and my husband.
And my dad, Aaron Montgomery.
Join the conversation.
Let's talk some business.
All right. Welcome into Small Business Saturdays, everybody. My name is Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me right up here at our Success Group. New time today. We talked about it in social media and Facebook and stuff there, but my son has started back to his Saturday morning volleyball clinics, and we had a great time this morning. The coaching over there is fantastic, and they just have a blast. He actually played last night too, and is going to play again 2 times on Monday night as well. So he is all volleyball all the time now. And boy, I can't tell you how excited I am about that. Those of you that know me, I'm a volleyball nut myself. And but, you know, as long as he enjoys it, that's what's important for me. I just love being there, watching him participate in a sport that I've enjoyed for a good chunk of my life as well. And yeah, so new time. We put a couple times up there for people to let us know what was going to work best for them. And 12:30 was the winner just by a hair. So we'll see how it goes. If we get some other times that would be better for folks. I just can't do the 8 o'clock time slot anymore for a little while here while the Saturday morning volleyball is happening. But yeah, so today though, I'm really excited. Obviously, anytime I get to bring a guest on to Small Business Saturdays, I always love that. Going back to my time with 2 regular guys where it's mainly about bringing guests on. But today it's even more special for me. You guys have actually heard me talk over and over again about the things that I've been able to learn from my dad over the years. And today I have finally worn him down to a point where he's agreed to come on and chat with me. You know, we were talking right before we got started about, you know, when he was in business, it was the face-to-face and all of that kind of stuff. And obviously today's world, we can't do that as much, but in general, we've moved to a bit more digital. So it was really nice of my dad to agree to spend a little time on a Saturday afternoon with me. So let's do that. Let me bring my dad in here and introduce you. Let me hit the right button there. Sorry. There we go. And all right, Dad, Monty Montgomery, how are you today, sir?
Great. Thanks, son. Hopefully won't embarrass you too bad, but there might be some moments.
That's right. That's right. That's okay. I said I would be nice. You didn't agree to that, so it's okay. Yeah. So this is my father, Monty Montgomery, James Monty Montgomery. Dad, it's a little bit odd that have not been called Monty a lot yet. At what stage in your life did you go from James to Monty?
Well, you can't be in the Army and have the Montgomery name on your, what they call a blouse shirt. Yeah. And not be within 10 minutes be called Monty.
Monty, okay.
Now, that was a long time ago, as you know, before you. And so that name just stuck for, gosh, over 50 years now.
Yeah, yeah. I always remember as a kid, we always knew when it was a sales call calling the house because they'd ask for James. And
Still works.
Still works. Okay. So if they ask for Monty, then it's like, okay. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we've got some folks checking in with us here today, Dad. We've got Jerry, friend of mine, Jerry Dyke, checking in, and good afternoon, and Mo. And I'm not sure who's using the Our Success Group side, if this is Kylene or Todd, but somebody checking in. Hi, Monty. And then I believe this is for you, Dad. Afternoon, Mr. Montgomery. So.
She couldn't miss there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Got both of us. So anyhow. All right, Dad. Well, can you start us off with maybe just, going back, you out of the Army, you became a CPA. Is that, am I remembering that correct?
Well, yes. I got out of the Army in 1969.
Okay.
And then I spent 3 years getting my bachelor's degree as an accountant.
Okay.
And then became a CPA immediately after that and moved to Phoenix, Arizona.
Nice. Yep. And then I was born shortly thereafter, right?
Well, you were born in 74, in case you can't remember.
Yeah. I'm getting old, Dad. I don't know. Yeah. All right. So you were a CPA. And I talked to you the other day on text, and you said about 23 years. Is that about right then?
Let's see. I was CPA in 72. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So, Dad, what I remember though is, obviously being a CPA, you're involved with working with a lot of people, both on their personal tax returns, but I know you worked with a lot of businesses as well. And then the other thing that I always remembered is not only were you a CPA, but you seemed to kind of get involved with people's business from I don't know, I would call it a consulting kind of thing. I mean, I remember Mr. Swanson, for example, and some of your clients like that. Was that part of the CPA thing, or was that more part of what, you just getting to know them and being engaged in their businesses?
Yeah, more the latter. As part of a CPA really is intimate in a business innards, if you will.
Sure.
And and then they did become close friends, especially the one you referred to, Gary Swanson, was probably my favorite client. And over the years, you become close friends, and they give you a call and say, this opportunity has arisen, and my business. What do you think? Because they didn't have anybody else to talk to in those days.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Gary was an amazing man. I enjoyed him and his family. I remembered Trevor more because I was pretty young when, and Trevor was his son. But I don't know, with Gary as that relationship grew, and so tell people a little bit about who Gary Swanson is and what some of the things you guys did together were.
Well, unfortunately, Gary Swanson is now dead.
Yeah,
has been for a bit. He was a world-renowned wildlife artist, and if you've got any of Gary's paintings or even prints, they probably have increased in great value.
Yeah.
Trevor, his son, has kind of carried on that particular thing, and he had a brother that was also an artist.
Oh, that's right, Ray, right?
Pardon me?
Yeah, it was Ray, right? His brother's name was Ray.
Ray did Southwestern Indian type things. But anyhow, they were really quite well known, and the paintings commanded a huge price.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of financial issues and questions, and of course tax issues and so forth. So I got very closely involved with Gary, and even to the point of staying with him at his various ranches that he owned throughout the West, and spent a lot of time with Gary.
Yeah. He was pretty special. I remember you guys going to the Grand Cayman Islands at one point.
That was weird.
Well, so Dad, from a small business perspective, a lot of the folks that are tuned in here today, they're small businesses, and when you talk about a CPA, you, as you said, you were not just involved with the tax side of things, but you helped them kind of understand how things worked from a business standpoint. So what were some of the favorite businesses that you got to be involved with over the years?
Well, I really enjoyed the construction businesses because that was my personal interest at the time. And in fact, I went on to do that, as you know.
Yep.
But I did have several ranches that, because I was in half of the time in Prescott, Arizona, and including a large dude ranch in that area.
Yeah.
And really, that was a fun thing to do and to visit. And then, of course, my favorite was Gary, the world-renowned wildlife artist. But
Sure.
I had many types of businesses, from personal service to sales to banking to auto dealers, a lot of things like that. So
Yeah.
a lot of experiences.
Yeah. So, Dad, what were some maybe common themes across all those different types of businesses? What did you see people kind of struggling with that maybe that you were maybe able to help them with or help them understand?
Well, a couple of things that were, for the successful ones, it was pretty commonplace. The first thing to success was persistence. I mean, if they had longevity, they usually had success. But they had to do it with quality and customer service as their overriding philosophy. If you couldn't differentiate yourself from whoever was competing with them with quality customer service, then they didn't have the longevity then.
Yeah. So kind of the stick to it, but then as you're sticking to it, make sure that you're focused on the customer and the customer experience, because that gave you the longevity you needed.
Customers are the only reason they have a business. So they pay the mortgage, they pay the rent, they pay the telephone, everything's paid by the customer. So that has to be paramount. And so many of the businesses had the wrong direction.
Sure. When you say wrong direction, how did that look? I mean, what was there something you would look at and go, yeah, they're going in the wrong direction?
Well, pretty much they're losing money.
Okay. So there was you could see it in the numbers. Was there a certain kind of attitude or certain mistake that they made? In fact, Jerry asked, any common mistakes small businesses made that you saw?
Yeah, there were several of them. First, the ones that were making the biggest mistake with customer service and everything else didn't have a plan. I mean, they had no idea where they're going. They didn't even know what they're trying to do. So the lack of planning hurt them right from the get-go and didn't differentiate themselves. And secondly, they seemed to have their priorities. The business wasn't very important to them, apparently, because they went in and out of a lot of them. Gotcha.
Yeah. I've seen that. I know all about that. It's one thing that I've talked about quite a bit on this program and other places is that, I think a lot of times we want to go, okay, I've got my business and then I've got my personal life. And I'm not saying you have to be like business all the time, but what I'm saying is that your business should be a part of you. And so it doesn't mean that you can't have fun and enjoy your life and do all those things. But if you're a small business owner, you also have to realize that you're a small business owner 100% of the time. So, if you're out and you're with some friends and an opportunity comes up for you to talk about your business, you shouldn't shy away from that. And then I guess folks that are that are tuning in can probably garner a lot of things that they hear from me now as you talk about planning. Everybody knows that which is funny in our industry, Dad. The business plan, for some reason, especially early on, I think we're starting to make some traction here. But people were against it, thought it was a bad thing, thought it was beyond them, things like that. But Dad, when you talk about planning, what does that mean to you?
Well, that means anything from just writing down a paragraph about what you're trying to achieve to hopefully a more detailed set of steps, if you will,
sure,
about how you're going to get there. But at least you got to know what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And I was always surprised at the lack of that direction, if you will.
Sure. And, the interesting part that I took from a lot of that stuff, so I was lucky enough to be able to kind of be in the background of all this as a younger person and seeing you interacting with them and learning a little bit about their businesses myself, even at a teenager level. And what I was always so shocked about was that I could even get the sense that, boy, yeah, this person was going to have a struggle, but yet they stayed in business for a long time. It's hard to fail sometimes.
Well, that's true. And, we were fortunate to be in a location in a time when businesses were just booming, in the 80s and 90s in Arizona, things were doing well.
Yeah.
Well, at least the early 90s. So they were in the right place at the right time. But on the other hand, the ones that kind of got hit with the downturn were the ones that you would expect.
Yeah. And I think that's an interesting point too that you make there, Dad, is that, when things are good, they look good. And then you have a situation like COVID or whatever and a downturn. And I've been saying this since, we really started talking about COVID in March, that, as you see and as you watch people go through this process of pivoting and figuring out what their business looks like, the ones that always seem to have the best opportunity or I know people that actually are having their best year ever in 2020, but every single one of those people, like you said, had a plan. They knew what their goal was. They knew what they were reaching towards. So because they knew that, then it made it easier for them to make those hard decisions that slapped them in the face when all of a sudden, they had to shut their doors if they had a brick and mortar or whatever. But they knew what their goal was. They knew what they were trying to do. So it made it a lot easier for them to kind of make those hard decisions. So, I mean, you've obviously spent time and this is not the only time our country or the world in general has gone through something a little bit, there's been plenty of different downturns and things like that. Is there any similarities you could make from different times that you saw to what's happening today in the world?
Yeah, probably. I mean, we've had all kinds of ups and downs. We've had many things to protest about, and for good reason sometimes, but just things don't, this is not brand new. There's been downturns, there's been booms, there's been injustices, if you will,
sure,
that have happened many times in the past. I mean, my goodness, I went through the Vietnam War. You talk about something that was unpopular and spawned a lot of protests.
That
was really one.
Yep. Obviously I was not old enough or not born yet, but seeing what I see and what I've learned from you, it definitely, I think it helps bring perspective to things when you can, look at the bigger picture of it and realize that this is not the only time, and there has been that, and we've made it through it, and we just have to figure it out. We just have to kind of work together and figure it out. So that's good. So Dad, I guess let's change gears here a little bit. Let's go back to some of your clients, and because you also were not just a CPA. You mentioned that got into contracting, log home business, art gallery. What other things have you done besides be a CPA, Dad?
Well, when I first started as a CPA, as you know, and then for a time while I was a CPA, I also was a partner in a computer store.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I do remember that now. Yep.
That was interesting. Anyhow, I did that for a while, and then came after I decided to not be a CPA anymore for reasons which we won't get into here. I went into the log home business because of my relationship with some of my construction clients. And that was really wonderful. Of course, I moved to a different state, moved to Colorado.
Yeah.
And you were involved not in the CPA business, but the art business and the log home business. And frankly, I couldn't have done it without you. So I think you learned a lot, but you also, gave a lot too. So
well, thank you.
Great. Yeah. As you got older, you became more and more valuable, at least to me.
Good.
So that kind of went from there. And then after the log home business and doing a few other things, I had the business where I had a tour business where we toured Colorado Springs area in Jeeps.
Yep.
And then I had the altitude issues, so I couldn't do that anymore. And from that, I wasn't an entrepreneur anymore. I had jobs with other people in the Seattle area.
Sure. Speaking of the Seattle area, Dad, I love to talk about this because this is what always impressed me. So you moved to Seattle. You had never lived there before. I don't think you'd really ever spent much time there before, right? When you had moved there, I mean, before you never been there until you moved there. Okay.
Yeah.
So you moved there, and I don't know. I certainly don't know the timing of it all, but to me, it felt like it was just a couple months, maybe 3-6 months, and you were driving that tour bus.
Yeah, that's the first job I had there. I learned to drive a huge tour bus in the streets of downtown Seattle.
I remember that. But what I
do the tour while you were driving. So it was fun. I loved it.
I know you loved it. But the thing that I always thought was amazing is you had never been there. You had lived there for only, I don't think it was even a full year at that point. And I finally got out there to visit you, and I went on your tour, and it like you'd lived there your whole life, so you obviously have some interest in history. You said it was fun. I mean, what did you learn from that whole experience?
Well, because I'd had the tour business in Colorado and I hadn't lived there either.
That's true.
I learned that and I do love history. So I learned that if you study it and really put some effort into it, which I had an interest in doing anyway, frankly, I had many of the other tour guides tell me that they learned things from me all their life because they hadn't studied it. How much do you know about your own location right now? Well, unless you study it, probably not a lot.
Sure. But you had a passion for it, and then that was what showed through. And I definitely took a big lesson from that. And I see that in a lot of the folks I get to work with now through our success group is, when you have a passion about it, even because I think a lot of times how did you overcome that? Okay, well, I had not lived here. I'm not the expert, but all of a sudden I'm driving this big bus on these little tiny streets, and I have to tell these 50 people sitting behind me, I have to wow them about this city that I haven't lived in my whole life. Was there some imposter syndrome you had to get over, and how did you do that if there was?
Yeah, I was pretty nervous the first few times. I don't know if it was more the bus or the people, but then after that, they accepted it so much because, as far as they knew, I'd been there forever, and they enjoyed it, and it's like being a stand-up comedian, if you will, and having a new audience every few hours for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. It was fun. I mean, I had a blast on that tour, and it was fun to watch you in your element. Which is funny because you were talking about doing this and how that wasn't really, but in a way, that was kind of what you were doing on that tour bus. You just didn't have a camera in front of you. You just had a new audience behind you each time.
Yeah, new audience every time. I mean, that kind of started, I didn't mention, but remember in Colorado Springs when we lived there, I drove the little, I guess it's called a tram at the zoo.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Tour. And then after that, I became a conductor on the Cog Railway to the top of Pikes Peak and had to give a spiel.
Yeah.
That was 3 times a day. So that was 250 people on that. And I just love that too. So
yeah.
I guess I inherited that from you, apparently.
It was fun, but if you have a passion about it, you love doing it, then you can make it work, and that's I think a good lesson for everybody. Find what you're passionate about, find what you like doing, and overcome those obstacles that are in front of you. Put a little work in, right, Dad?
Absolutely. The one who's the most prepared is the luckiest one.
Yeah, there you go. You make your own luck, right?
That's right.
That's right. So Jerry says a great tour guide is such a blessing. So I remember people throwing money at you, so you must have been doing something right.
Yeah, I got decent tips.
Yeah.
I learned from that. If you recall a few times what we did, that if you go to somewhere new, like you're visiting on vacation, one of the best things you can do is do a tour right up front, because you learn all these things and what's fun to see and what's not, and some of the inside information. We did that in St. Louis.
Yep. We took Segway. Yeah, we did the little Segway tour in downtown St. Louis. I'd lived here for probably 4 or 5 years at that point. No clue about any of this stuff. And it was so cool to be able to do that and go tour around downtown St. Louis, even though I'd lived here at the time. So
riding the Segway wasn't too bad.
Well, that was fun too. That was definitely fun. Yeah. Yeah, Segway's on my goal list. I got to get one of those. That's all right. So, Dad, let's. Nan says, "Love hearing the passion your dad has for all his different careers." Yeah, and certainly something that I've learned along the way is that that's a big part of it. If you're not loving what you're doing, it's probably really not worth doing, right, Dad?
It extends to even into retirement. Every single day has to be a great day. I have this little sign up here in my office. I don't know if you've seen it before. It says, "While you are waking up today, someone else was taking their last breath. Be thankful for this day and don't waste it."
That's awesome.
And it's a kind of a little bit sober to begin with, but don't waste it. It's a great day.
Yeah, it is. It is a great day. Well, this is great, Dad. I'm loving this. Let's okay. So we talked about some of the different businesses, the art gallery, the art publishing, the log home businesses, all the different things we got to do together, which were really amazing. But this is my opportunity to kind of test myself and see how I did. And I appreciate you praising me already on this stuff. But what was it that you hoped I'd learn from all that stuff?
There were a few things that I'd hoped you learned. Organization. That's difficult for any young person to learn organization.
Yeah.
And you did very, very well. But again, the importance of the customer as the reason for the business, and that you needed quality over speed sometimes. And then, to me, the most important thing that we all learned, including yourself, and I think it goes to this day with you, is that if you keep your promises, that you will excel against your competition, because unfortunately for them, they don't really keep their promises.
Yeah.
Maybe it's inadvertent, but if you keep yours, you'll be ahead.
Yeah.
So I think you learned all of those things.
Yeah. I did, and I appreciate that. And in fact, with the whole keep your promises thing, one of the things that has really been important to me, and I know that I've learned that from those experiences, is inside that whole keep your promises vein is to make sure that when you're making those promises that you're, the under promise and over deliver. So I find myself a lot of times in business and in different things that I've been involved with, telling people, okay, well, I can't guarantee it by that. Can't, they come and because I remember you telling me sometimes the best thing you can do is say no to folks. I remember in the log home business, some of the best experiences we had working with clients were clients that originally came to you kind of demanding, you got to do this in this timeline and da 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 da. And you said, I'm sorry, we can't do that. We can't deliver on that promise. And so, but to me at first that was like, oh my God, we're turning away business. No, we can't do that. But you helped me realize that sometimes that's the best thing you can do, because then they'll come back to you and say, okay, well, let's do it within what you can promise. And then you make it a great experience for everybody involved. So that's something I've always definitely taken to heart is that feeling of, okay, I'd rather say no to somebody if I don't deep down in my heart know I can deliver on that than say yes and take something that I'm going to struggle to be able to deliver on, even though it definitely is hard, especially as a small business to turn away business. So what any I know I just talked for a long time, but any way you can expand on that for me, Dad?
Well, saying no is the most difficult thing for any entrepreneur, because you wouldn't be an entrepreneur if you were trying to not get business. And the whole reason for entrepreneurship is to get more business and that type of thing. But as you know, sometimes saying no is a powerful business getter. People don't want to be turned down to things. In fact, they may demand it. Well, gosh, I need that more than ever. I'm willing to pay even more for it. I mean, we built a lot of homes that we said we wouldn't do to begin with because we didn't have a lot of time, and they were very happy customers in the end. But you had to say no. Yeah.
I definitely a huge lesson that I learned, and I think it's really served me well throughout my career. Some of the businesses that I've been able to be involved with and kind of build, it's always been on that customer service, being the most important. I've said many times on this program and others that I've always been a really, really terrible salesperson. If I was just had to go out there and be a straight salesperson, I would be hungry, very hungry right now. But the fact that I was able to realize that if I just didn't think about it as a sales situation, but more as a consulting situation, then, and sharing what I knew I could do, what I knew that our company could pull off, then we were able to win that customer, but not only win that customer, win that customer for life. And then I didn't have to go out and get a whole bunch of new customers all the time because I had a whole bunch of great customers that were my customers for life. And it was huge.
Well, as you know, after I stopped my own businesses in Seattle, I went to work for a company that had an owner that was remarkable in that area. And he believed not only in customer service, but in customer loyalty. The only reason that we could have a salary, the only reason we could pay our expenses, the only reason for anything in his company was the customer.
Mm-hmm.
And the customer truly was, I mean, he did some things for customers that a lot of times me as the financial part of the business really had some problems with. I mean, the customer was just taking advantage of him. And without exception, he said, they're the customer. If that's what they're going to do, that's what they're going to do. And in the long term, and that's a nice thing to have, but he had a plan.
Yeah.
A plan. In the long term, he really built a substantial business. We had 5 offices throughout the country, and I don't know, about 100 employees. And that little thing where he started on his own.
Yeah.
And it was all because he had a plan, and it was about the customer. It wasn't anything else. If the customer wanted something, that's what they got.
Yeah.
And it built loyalty. He had customers that would go anywhere else, no matter what our prices were.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. What was the name of that company, Dad? I forgot off the top of my head.
American Retail Supply.
Yeah. They're still in business, right? They're still.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. His name was Keith Lee, by the way. Really a remarkable man.
Keith Lee. Okay. American Retail Supply. Actually, I think it's something good that our listeners would want to hear about. So if you need, display for your stores and things like that, I wonder how they're doing through all this as brick and mortar and stuff is changing.
I think they're doing quite well now because it's not only just the display items, but it's also the supplies. I mean, if you're going to even sell something over the internet, you still got to have package material.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
And he's changed his products a little bit, I'm sure, over the years. I haven't been there for 2008 when I left, but
okay.
He's doing quite well. I know that because you remember my former friend and compadre up there, the other CPA I worked with.
Yeah, there. Dino. Yep.
Dino is still his CPA, and so I kind of know what's
cool
happening. But Keith did that business all by himself. Started out selling the little price marker things where you put the little sticky thing on cans before there were barcodes, before anything like that.
Yeah.
He sold in that and built that huge business out of that because he had persistence and he had a plan.
Yeah, I love it. That is great advice, and I do remember you working there and how you definitely, I could tell you enjoyed it. I could tell you wanted to be there, and that was great. That was great. All right, Dad. Well, we've been going here for about 30 minutes or so. So if anybody that's tuned in live here, you have any questions for myself or my dad, we'll be happy to give it our best to try to answer those questions for you. But I've got one last question for you myself. And so I guess here's what I'd love for you to share. What's the number one piece of advice you'd give a small business owner that just started out? I know we've talked about a lot of things already and you've given them some advice, but if there's any other thing that maybe stands out to you that, let's say you were going to start a small business today, Dad. What are you going to do?
Well, I, as you know, started a lot of them.
Yep.
And helped clients start a lot of them. And we started, we've already talked about this a number of times, but we started with a business plan. Sometimes it was a really brief thing. I tried to get it as complex as, not complex, but as thorough as we could, because there are a lot of questions. And the other benefit of that process, and I even did it as a CPA firm, the benefit of that process was while you're doing the plan, it forces you to think through certain questions to insulate yourself from those ups and downs that are going to come. And so you got a big what if session. We used to have partner meetings with my CPA firm out of the office for a full day every year to go through our plan, whether we needed to make adjustments to it. Even had went through all of our client list and fired some clients.
Yeah.
Because they just were keeping us from serving our other clients well.
Yeah.
And it's the reason we became the largest CPA firm in that little city.
Yeah. 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 It's, I remember those times. I always remember them because it was cool for us because you guys would go to like cool places. And as the family, we'd get to go. You guys were, locked in the hotel room going through your plan, and we're out there playing in the mountains or wherever we were at. It was great.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys would have a plan. Okay. Have a plan. So I guess from that, Dad, I do have one more question. I said that was it, but I've got one more question. So when you were sitting a client down to kind of go through that process of getting a business started or kind of getting their plan together, how did that start? What was the first question you would ask them? I mean, what do they have to know first?
Well, of course, as anal CPAs, we had a list that we went through how to develop a business plan. There are a lot of those. I think you have gotten something like that. But you've got to come up with what it is that you're trying to do. I'm not going to do my barbershop just because I want to cut hair.
Yeah.
That's certainly the process, but that's not what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so what is that end goal that you have? Do you want to be the biggest barbershop in the whole city, state, whatever? Or do you want to offer great services all in the hair cutting related business? I don't know why I picked barbershop, but
yeah, that's all right. Do I need a haircut? I don't.
I don't know why I picked that, but anyhow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You had to go through those fundamentals, which led to all the other questions on the list.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like you said, in our success group, one of the programs that we have is our 5 keys of business planning. And again, yeah, it starts right there. It's, people that I've talked to, they say, okay, I ask them, why did you start this business? And typically they say things like, I want to support my family, or I want to make money, or whatever. And that's the process. What is why? There's a lot of things you could do to make money or to support your family. You go get a job. You could go. Why do you want to start your own business? Why are you getting into the garment decorating business, for example, or whatever? And once you can get down into those specifics, I think, like you said, it makes it so much easier to then answer all the other questions that are more of the what and how of the business, as opposed to, when you start with that why side of things. So.
Well, we used to, as part of that process, ask them, why do you want to be an entrepreneur and work 16 hours a day instead of working 8 hours a day for somebody else? They really wanted to. Some people really had no idea. They just thought, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Now, a lot of people had a great passion. The restaurant people always seem to have a great passion. And so we got into other things, but sometimes they just felt like, well, somebody gave me this idea. I think I'll do it.
Yeah.
But they really were destined to fail because they had no idea where they're going.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. All right. Couple things here, Dad, before we call it an afternoon here. Colette, now, before I pose this to you, Dad, it's been how many years since you were actually a CPA?
Let's see, 12.
12. Okay. Yeah. So first and foremost, we'll preface in anything that we share here is that the most important thing for you to do is to actually talk to your financial advisor, because they need to know more about your business before you can answer these questions more wholly. But Dad, you always do a great job helping me out, kind of giving me at least a general idea of questions I should be asking my financial advisors, CPAs, things like that. But Colette asks, what's best if you have 2 different businesses, LLC or S Corp?
Well, Colette, that is a great question and a very common one that I've been answering since, that's been available for as long as I've been in business. And the answer is it depends on circumstances, of course, but an LLC in general is easier to use, easier to set up, and gives you just about the same protections as an S corporation. An S corporation is basically a tax situation where you have a regular corporate structure, but you're taxed as a partnership or taxed as a sole proprietorship. So you don't have the double taxation as a corporation. So either one of them might be appropriate, but if I was going to do a brand new one, I'd start with an LLC because you can do about everything, and it's a lot less complicated and a lot less expensive to set up.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Dad. That's a great piece of advice. And again, if anybody else has any other questions, I'm happy to put them in front of him. And thanks for answering, Dad. Leanne does say, I live 45 minutes south of Seattle. I have a lot of respect for him being a tour guide on those crazy streets. Yeah. I remember going back to that story real quick, so fortunately, I guess in a way, because you were in that huge bus, that gave you some kind of an advantage, right?
Well, I guess it did. What was her name that just asked that question?
Leanne.
As Leanne remembers, all of the streets in Seattle, including the freeways, are just nutty, crazy busy with. It's hard to tell how people even move around there. Even south of Seattle, they get pretty complex. And in the big bus, it was very difficult, but we used to have something called the Mercedes merge.
Okay. Explain,
so
please.
If you need to merge over on the freeway in a hurry, the best thing to do is see if you can find a Mercedes or otherwise expensive car and start moving over in front of them, because invariably they'd get out of your way. Trying to do it with a old Toyota or something sometimes wasn't successful. So.
Got it. Okay. So you look for the expensive car, and that was the one you could get in front of because they were going to keep it nice and non-nicked. All right.
I don't think do that in your car.
No. So Leanne says people would move for him. LOL. Okay. Awesome. All right, Dad. Well, anything else? What did we miss here? What did we not get to talk about today? That any embarrassing stories you need to share, or anything that I told you I'd be nice, but you didn't have to do it. I would prefer that you didn't, but if you have something, this is my penance for making you do this today.
You were my firstborn and a wonderful young man, very sensitive, a little skinnier than you are now.
A little bit, yeah.
We used to call you the pogo stick.
The pogo stick, which
sound like a pogo stick.
Yeah. Which you also, yeah, that's funny. You also explained that's a bit. You kind of are looking at my youngest son, Lewis, who people have gotten to know a little bit through this, and he's pretty similar in that, where he's a pogo stick.
Yeah, you and I have always been. I don't know. What it is still? Do you still look at people as either A types or B types?
I haven't talked about that a lot, but yeah, I know that's still out there. Yeah.
Well, we're always the A types in the family, and your brother and your mother were not.
That's true. All right, Dad, before I let you go, Colette did just have some follow-up here, so I thought it'd be worth getting her question answered here. She says, I have an LLC already, but in the near future I'm starting another for my grandson, so I was thinking of an umbrella kind of protection, or should I say one entity with different businesses under it?
Well, the LLC concept would work for that too. You can have subsidiary LLCs or subsidiary partners. The problem with a partnership, which is an LLC, but without the corporate protection, is that you don't have a layer of protection from your private assets with a partnership as you do with an LLC. So that LLC really is a very good way of doing business. Yep. That's the way we've gone with our business. And I think it's, like you said, it was fairly easy to set up and definitely seemed a lot cheaper and a lot less headache. So yes, much. Yes. Yeah. Excellent. All right. Well, Dad, Jerry put it nicely here. She said, thank you for your time. Appreciate you sharing, Dad. And it's been a lot of fun and also very educational. So I think that'll do it for today, Dad. Well, it wasn't quite so bad as I thought it was going to be. So I look forward to watching you and whoever else you sucker into this.
All right. So are you going to be starting up your own weekly live video now that you've learned how easy it is to do?
As you know, I had to get a lot of training even to do this. So.
I don't know. You can sit in a chair and talk. We've done that for years, Dad. So
well, that's true, but I'll do that to you.
Okay. All right. Well, Dad, love you very much. Thank you so much for being here, and appreciate all the insight and helping me get to where I'm at today.
Well, you're welcome, son. And bye, everybody, and talk to you soon, son.
All righty. All right. Cool. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for your time today and the great questions. And it was a lot of fun. As I mentioned, I had to kind of talk him into a little bit different. But he did a great job, as I knew he would. And I learned stuff too. So hopefully you guys learned some things. Obviously, as you can tell, very fortunate to have Monty. It's weird to call him Monty as my dad. And so I appreciate everything he's done for me in my life, and appreciate him sharing with you guys. So, all right, everybody. Well, let me see what's coming up here. Trying to remember off the top of my head. I didn't really plan for all that, but yeah. So we talked a lot about planning today. As my dad mentioned, it's very important. You guys can see where I get it from. And one of the things that we are big into our success group, one of the things that we're all about is planning, setting goals, and all that other stuff. So if you want to learn more, head over to oursuccessgroup.com and check that out and see what we've got going on over there. We do actually spend a whole 5-week session of going through the business planning process. And like talk about, getting that why set, but then building on that and growing from there. Business planning and a business plan. Again, I've said hundreds of times that I think it just gets a bad rap. And in the end, it's not that big, scary thing. It's not something that you shouldn't do or you don't need to do. In fact, I think small businesses, it's more important than even a big business. I think a big business can afford to make a lot of mistakes and kind of try things and test things on the fly. Whereas a small business, we can't afford to make a lot of mistakes and test and try things on the fly. We need to have thought about those things in our head. And by converting those thoughts into things we write down on paper, it makes it real. It makes it something that then we can try and test. But we've already gotten the bad ideas out of the way in our head, as opposed to just trying things. So I'll get on a big soapbox for a long time if you let me, but love to have you guys be part of the Our Success Group membership. If you want to just check it out, you head over to oursuccessgroup.com/ST. And I'm going to try to find the link here. Where did that go? There you are. oursuccessgroup.com/ST. That's our success tracker program. Gives you a little taste of what we're all about at Our Success Group, where you set a goal and you put a little skin in the game. You got $25 that you got to participate, and we help you set an actual goal, and then we do everything we can to try to help you reach it. So I'd love to have you guys check that out if you're already not a part of the Success Tracker program. And so next week we close up 5 keys in Our Success Group. We're going to be talking about Facebook marketing. So that's happening this Wednesday night. Looking forward to that. And let's see here. Got Tuesdays with Todd back. I think Todd's got his plug back and is ready for another Tuesdays with Todd coming up on Tuesday night. And then I will be back on Two Regular Guys on Friday over at tworegularguys.com. You can check that out. We've got Matt Marcotte from Printavo coming in to talk about merch stores over there on Two Regular Guys. So that's what's coming up next week. And next Saturday, same time, 12:30 Central Time. We're going to keep it this time here for a little bit and see how we do. We're going to talk about overcoming our fears and what fear is and how we can overcome them. I actually had a pretty wild and crazy dream last night. My wife and I were looking it up, and a lot of it comes. She indicated from what she looked up online that the things that I was dreaming about had an indication that I've got a fear of success. So we're going to discuss how to get over some of that. So it's really Going to be a great topic. I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys. I actually posted on facebook.com/our success group pro a question. So if you guys would go on there and share what your biggest fears in your business are, if you're willing to share, and we can discuss those next Saturday. So let's see here. Best money spent. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate that. Colette said, that's so true. I've had my business for 3 years and I'm now really understanding the importance of a business plan. I need a freaking business plan to take my business to another level. High five, Colette. 100% agree. It's a huge part of business. In fact, one of the things on my plan for this weekend, I am actually going to play volleyball here this afternoon, but tomorrow, as I'm recovering from playing volleyball, I will be working on our Success Group's business plan. And, so we've had a plan, but working on it and continuously updating it's the other side of it that you got to work on. So, but it's just cool. It's just a fun experience to be able to, dream, live, visualize, kind of go, what does my business, what is it supposed to look like 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? And I think that's just fun. It's just fun to dream, So anyhow, all right, guys, thank you so much for your time today. It was a lot of fun. And thanks so much to my dad for his time and joining me. Great fun, and honored to have him there. I am a very lucky person to have an amazing family, a wonderful father, as you guys just met. My brother's an amazing person. My mom is amazing. So I am a lucky guy, and I appreciate the opportunity to share him with you guys today. All right. All right, guys, have a great rest of your weekend, and I will talk to you again next week.